What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Bee Gees, and we're back to finish the 1969 album Odessa. And once again, shout out to all the folks who've contributed to this Bee Gees deep dive, as well as to Amy specifically because she sent the double LP for To Whom It May Concern, which will be our next step in the journey. But before then, the last track on Odessa is the British Opera. It sounds very straightforward, very specific. I wonder whether we're going to have operatic singing or whether this will be a normal song, so to speak, about the opera. I know that they are very well capable of making very sonorous and even epic symphonic type tunes, and obviously when it comes to operatic music there tends to be an orchestral backing to a lot of the singing. So yes, I feel like there's a number of possibilities here, but I wouldn't be surprised by any of them. So let's see what it actually is. This is the Bee Gees. The track is the British Opera, and it's the final tune on their 1969 album Odessa. Wow. Incredible. So it felt like a very fitting closing to the album in that it was an eccentric, wide-ranging album with all manner of music, not only folk-type songs, but fully orchestral tunes and, you know, a bit of the, like, 60s rock and so on. So it's fitting in that it's another unexpected turn, and yet at the same time, as I mentioned in the opening, I know they are very well capable of composing and including songs that make use of symphonic, orchestral type of environments. And yeah, it felt kind of like the final track in a musical, like the finale of a stage musical, which I suppose on an album like this is a fitting end. It felt less operatic in one sense. When I think opera, I think of like Don Giovanni and La Traviata and so on, which, have these big arias and, sopranos and baritones singing very powerfully. It wasn't that type of opera sound, but it was like a choral operatic type of sound where, there's these angelic voices. We heard a lot of other instruments, like definitely some cellos in there. There's an organ in there. I think we heard some pizzicato or like plucked strings, whether those are violins or otherwise. Definitely like a mixture of woodwinds and percussion. I think there was even a harp at one point. So I like the varied orchestration as well as the sequencing. Those voices, again, very transcendent and angelic, and it felt like a fitting finale or capstone to a truly incredible album, which, again, I've heard people's comments that this album was maybe meant to be something different from what it turned out to be in the end, or they felt like they hadn't maybe achieved precisely what they set about to do at the beginning of the process. But I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's a very unexpected album if you don't know anything more about the Bee Gees beyond their like disco era hits, which again, as I came into this deep dive, I wasn't quite in that category. I was aware of songs like Too Much Heaven, which are not really disco and speak to their incredible and very nuanced composition of their songs. So I was aware they were more than their disco hits. But admittedly, most of what I had heard from them were their famous like 70s era or like early 80s type of hits. But having gone into this album by then, knowing a lot more about how much variety they have and their skill as songwriters and composers, I wasn't surprised by this album, and yet I was still amazed by all that it did and all the variety over the course of the record. So I think it's fantastic, even if it wasn't quite what they envisioned when they began it. And I'm aware that, this is one chapter in a much larger story of the Bee Gees. So I'm still looking forward to the albums that we have yet to go through, and we have many available. And indeed, not only shout out to Amy and Kim and Adam, but also to Lisa, who shared digital versions of some of the records we haven't gone through yet. So even once we go through To Whom It May Concern, that will not be the end of the Bee Gees' journey either. So I'm looking forward to all of it. Let me know what you think of this amazing record concluding piece, and Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.